Hi folks, and this video is not for everybody. However, if you would like your workouts to feel easier or if you would like to race better, then in fact this video is for you. Everybody else, you could just hit stop right now. In my experience, most people have the opportunity for their workouts to feel easier and to race better by simply making sure they have enough fuel. I mean, it makes sense. Think about your car. Would you ever get ready to go on a trip without making sure you've got enough gas in the car? Your body is the same way. And for runners, fuel is carbohydrates. Now, for anybody listening, say, wait a minute, my doctor, I'm not supposed to have as many carbohydrates. You should talk to them about that. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a doctor. But I know for the vast majority of us, carbohydrates equal fuel. Now, for me, I need about 375 to 425 grams of carbohydrates in a typical day. How much I need depends on what kind of training cycle I'm in. And it's been my experience for me that unless I'm making a conscious effort to do that, I get nowhere near that amount, and I will start to feel it in the quality of some of my runs. Hopefully never for a race, because I really get focused on it before the race. But I can tell sometimes my runs are starting to just be tougher feeling than I think they should be. A lot of times it comes down to I simply didn't get enough fuel. So what should you do? Let's do a little bit of primer on this. So you really have two major sources. There are other ones, but for the most part, your fuel is coming from fat and it's coming from glycogen, which is sugar, it's carbohydrates, it's primarily in the muscles, it's a few other places as well. So if you are a lean 150-pound male, you usually have about 80,000 calories worth of fat, which is why we do so much aerobic working to really burn a lot of fat, because we've got so much fuel with fat. Glycogen, though, much more limited. If you're that 150-pound lean male and you are satiated with carbohydrates, you have maybe 1,800 calories worth, and obviously if you're not making the effort to really be satiated, it's less than that. And for different body types, it's obviously going to be a little bit less. But your major sources are fat, of which it's pretty much an unlimited supply, even when you're lean. Glycogen in the one that's really limited. So the way this works is when you are running at paragraph pace, that easy running, that's really high fat burning. It's not entirely fat. You're burning glycogen then as well, but the slower you're running, the slower the effort for anything aerobic, the more you're going to be getting that fuel primarily from fat with some glycogen in there. The faster you go, the more it switches over to glycogen. So if you're at that sentences pace, tempo run, steady state, those get to be much higher use of glycogen. We're not able to use as much fat for our fuel. And if you're in, say, a 5 or a 10K race, even somewhat a half marathon, you're really, really high in glycogen at that point in time, because the faster you go, the more you're depending upon that glycogen. We'll get to why that's important in a minute. So they've got a couple things you need to pay attention to. One is, are you getting enough fuel on a day-to-day basis? So I gave you my example. I need to be between 375, 425 kind of on a typical day. That is what I need day to day. How do I know? Well, here are some ranges, and I won't read them all off, but it shows you for your typical minutes of exercise in an average day. You take what you do a week and you can divide it out. How many grams of carbohydrates you need per pound of body weight. So what did I write at the bottom? That 150-pound lean male doing 60 minutes an average day would need about 345 grams of carbs, which works out to be about 1,200, 1,300 calories worth of carbohydrates. But I'll leave that up. You can look and say, how much am I exercising? What are the ranges? That's pretty much what you need to have in a typical day. Now, that won't be every day. The day after your long runs, you probably need a little bit more. The day after hard work, you probably need a little bit more. Your easy days, recovery days, it's probably a little bit less. You don't have to sit there and zero in on it every day, but that's kind of the range that you need to be at. Typically, when people see that, they have a heart attack, because they go, oh my gosh, if I have 1,380 calories worth of carbohydrates, plus the protein I need, plus you still need some fat, I'm going to gain all kinds of weight. Well, if you're getting that from the right sources, that's not the case. Now, if those 1,380 calories come from eating 8 bags of Skittles, yeah, you're going to be starving all day and you're going to eat the house and you're going to gain some weight. But if you're getting it from fruits and vegetables, whole grains, primarily from your good carbs, you're not going to be as hungry, and it's an important part of having the fuel in there. The next thing you need to be considering is refueling, and that refueling should occur, it takes 24 to 48 hours. So remember I said that when you have races or the harder runs that you need to think more about refueling. You need to refuel after all your runs, but let's face it, if you're out doing 3 or 4 very easy miles, refueling is not a very big deal. If you're doing a race, certainly a long run, steady state, tempo, speed intervals, those things that are really going to burn through, you've really got to make sure that you put some effort into making sure you get refueled. And that refueling is not just immediately after you eat. It's going to take you 24 to 48 hours, depending upon how much of your fuel you've burned, to kind of get yourself built back up. Many times what will happen is that somebody will have a harder workout. Say you have a hard workout on a Thursday and you don't get refueled, and then you have your long run on Saturday, and that long run you're just dragging. And yeah, I really wore myself out with that tempo run maybe I had on Thursday, or sometimes that tempo run is on Friday. It's not so much that you wore the muscles out, although that could be it. It's probably more likely that you just haven't gotten the fuel back into your system. So in summary, if you want your workouts to feel easier, if you want your racing to be better, you have to make sure you're getting enough fuel, and getting enough fuel comes both with what you're getting on a day-to-day basis, and then making sure that when you're doing those hard workouts that are really going to deplete your fuel, that you're putting that effort in that first 24 to 48 hours to really making sure you're getting your body refueled.